Hey guys, welcome to my YouTube channel Just Here and There. This is Ronald. This video is about the Saint Anthony and the Basilica of Saint Anthony of Padua, which is in Italy. Saint Anthony was a Portuguese Catholic priest. He was born and raised by a wealthy family in Lisbon, Portugal, and he died in Padua, Italy. He is the patron saint of the poor, patron saint of the sailors and fishermen, patron saint of the priests and travelers. He is a protector and guardian of males and wonder worker. The story of Saint Anthony of Padua is really very special. All you need to do is to take a train from Venice which reaches Padua in 30 minutes. You can also reach Padua by bus. I have made a separate video on these regional Trenitalia trains and also important what you should not forget when you are traveling in Italian trains. If you have not seen, the link is in the description box below. Padua in Italy is a great travel destination that often gets overlooked for the nearby tourist magnets of Venice and Verona. Yet Padua has lots to offer to the traveler looking for an authentic Italian experience. Padua is a city rich in art, history and culture, and this is the Basilica of Saint Anthony of Padua. This Basilica of Saint Anthony is one of the largest churches in the world, visited every year by more than 5 million pilgrims. The relics of Saint Anthony are here preserved. Saint Anthony is also known all over the world as the patron saint for the recovery of lost items, and is credited with many miracles involving the lost people, lost things, and even lost spiritual goods. There are live cams for the Holy Masses in streaming, the square of the Basilica, and also the Chapel of Saint Anthony live.
Orali. Ma piuttosto su questo svegliarsi e che cosa vuol dire. Lo vedremo anche domenica prossima.
This is the Chapel of Saint Anthony, the place where pilgrims place their hands on the green marble slab covering Saint Anthony's tomb. It is believed that Saint Anthony welcomes you with joy and warmly takes you into his care and invites you to remain under his protection. In the Middle Ages, there was no basilica here, but only the small church of Santa Maria Mater Domini, where Anthony had stayed for about a year before moving out of town. In 1231, when he realized that his death was approaching, Anthony asked to be brought to Padua, but he died along the way in the suburb of Arsela, June 13th. Construction of this basilica probably began around 1232, just 1 year after the death of Saint Anthony. It was completed in 1310, although several structural modifications took place between the end of 14th and mid-15th century. Entrance to Basilica is free of cost, but you are not allowed to take a video inside the church, near the Chapel of Saint Anthony where the saint's tomb is placed, near the Chapel of Relics where the saint's tongue, jawbone, skin from the head is placed, and also near several other chapels inside the Basilica. The place where I am standing and shooting is the cloister of this Basilica. Now I would like to say a few words on relics in Basilica of Saint Anthony in Padua. The word relic means literally remains. For a Christian it means in particular the mortal remains of those who have been recognized as martyrs and saints. This is the Chapel of Relics designed by Filippo Parodi, and these are the mortal remains. Here number 9 is Saint Anthony's tongue. Number 10 is jawbone relic of Saint Anthony. There are also many other relics of Saint Anthony and also of other saints and martyrs. In 2010, the pilgrims were given the chance to see the 13th century remains of Saint Anthony. The saint's bones were on display in a glass case in the chapel of his tomb in the Basilica of Saint Anthony in Padua. These arrangements were made in the honor of the anniversary of the transfer of his remains to his final resting place in the Chapel of the Relics in 15 February 1350. The anniversary was known as the Feast of the Tongue. Saint Anthony, the patron saint of Padua, is known for his gifts as a preacher. When his coffin was moved 30 years after his death, his tongue was discovered intact, a sign of his oratorical gifts. Every year on June 13th, procession of the relics of the saint and his statue is made through the streets of the Padua with the participation of thousands of people. Saint Anthony Day is celebrated on June 13th and it's also a bank holiday in Padua. The most fascinating thing about Padua is that it sits at the crossroads of science and religion. For on one hand, this is the city where Saint Anthony is venerated to the point of being simply called the saint, and on the other hand, Padua is the place where the second oldest Italian university was established in 1222. Throughout the centuries, famous scientists taught and studied in it. Among them was Galileo Galilei, a famous astronomer, physicist and engineer who called his 18 years in Padua the happiest in his life. Just 5 to 10 minutes walk from the Basilica, there is a massive public square featuring a central island surrounded by 70 plus statues of historic residents. It is one of the most beautiful places in Padua, an amazing place with historic atmosphere. You can chill out in a large park and walk around the whole square. I would say a must visit if you are in Padua. This square is the 90,000 square meter elliptical square. It is the largest square in Italy and one of the largest in Europe. Today there are 78 statues, 40 in the exterior ring and 38 statues in the inner ring. Following the original plan, there had been 88 statues. And the famous astronomer Galileo Galilei's statues is the 36th one. That's it for now, and I hope you like this video. Hit the like button, share and subscribe if you like, and I'll come up with a more interesting video next time. Until then, see you, bye bye.